What if the past isn't really gone? What if whispers from centuries ago still reach across time, wrapping their invisible hands around the present? History is often painted as a closed book, dates, kings, battles, and discoveries neatly written down. But sometimes, that book refuses to stay shut. Sometimes the people who dared to open certain pages paid for it with their lives. Tonight, we're not talking about myths or fairy tales told to scare children. We're diving into real, documented curses, dark maledictions that seem to bring ruin, death, and despair long after their origin. These are not just dusty stories from the past. They are wounds, scars that may still be bleeding today. Imagine walking into a tomb sealed for thousands of years, only to find yourself surrounded by strange accidents and inexplicable deaths. Was it coincidence? Or did an ancient pharaoh reach out from the grave to punish intruders? Or picture a glittering diamond, breathtakingly beautiful, passing from one hand to another, leaving behind a trail of bankruptcies, suicides, and bloody tragedies. A jewel so mesmerizing, yet so fatal, that many came to believe it was cursed beyond redemption. And then there are stories buried in obscurity. Family names spoken in whispers, entire bloodlines collapsing under the weight of relentless misfortune, patterns of death, loss, and despair repeating generation after generation, as if some unseen hand was pulling the strings. These are the kinds of stories that refuse to die. Legends that stalk the living, curses that may still be hunting in the shadows of our own time. So tonight, we'll open 3 dark chapters of history. The curse of Tutankhamun's tomb, the fatal allure of the Hope Diamond, and the forgotten shadow of the Blackwood family. Are they coincidence? Are they superstition? Or could it be that the dead are never truly silent? Stay with me, because once you step into the realm of curses, the line between past and present begins to blur. When Howard Carter knelt before the sealed doorway of Tutankhamun's tomb in November of 1922, had no idea he was about to awaken one of the greatest legends of the modern world. For centuries, the Valley of the Kings had remained silent, guarding the secrets of ancient rulers. But when Carter's lantern lit the dust and shadows of the boy king's resting place, some believe a chain of mysterious events began, events many would call a curse. The discovery was extraordinary. Carter had searched for years, funded by the wealthy British aristocrat Lord Carnarvon. Just as hope seemed lost, workers uncovered a staircase buried beneath the desert sands. At the bottom was a sealed door marked with the royal symbol of Tutankhamun. Behind it lay treasures untouched for over 3,000 years. When Carter made a small opening and looked inside, Carnarvon asked, "Can you see anything?" Carter replied with words that became immortal. "Yes, wonderful things." The wonder, however, was soon overshadowed by unease. In early 1923, Lord Carnarvon suffered a minor wound that unexpectedly worsened. In weeks, he was gone. Newspapers around the world seized on the story, calling it the curse of the pharaoh. Details made the legend spread faster. On the very night of Carnarvon's passing, Cairo experienced an unusual blackout. Far away in England, his favorite dog reportedly let out a howl and never rose again. Rumors claimed that an inscription had been found inside the tomb. "Death shall come on swift wings to those who disturb the king's peace." Though no such text has ever been proven, the idea captured the imagination of millions. In the following years, other strange misfortunes were reported. An American visitor to the tomb returned home and quickly fell ill. A French traveler who had admired the treasures met an unexpected end soon after. Even those who worked closely with the excavation teams seemed to suffer. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, who x-rayed the mummy, was struck by a sudden illness. Arthur Mace, another member of the team, declined in health under puzzling circumstances. By the late 1920s, it was said that more than 20 individuals connected in some way to the discovery had experienced untimely fates. Skeptics called it coincidence, but believers insisted it was proof that Tutankhamun's spirit was punishing intruders who had disturbed his eternal rest. Some of the strangest details seemed too uncanny to ignore. Lord Carnarvon's wound appeared on the same part of his face where Tutankhamun's mummy bore an injury. Carter's pet bird was eaten by a kobroth, the ancient emblem of Egyptian royalty, and the very day the tomb was opened. For many, these events felt like warnings from the ancient world. Howard Carter himself seemed to escape the so-called curse. He lived for more than a decade after the discovery and passed away peacefully in his 60s. Yet even his survival could not silence the legend. Some whispered that he had been chosen as the tomb's messenger. Others believed the curse was patient, taking its time. Modern science has offered explanations. Some researchers suggest that sealed tombs could contain dangerous spores or toxins, which may have harmed those exposed. Others argue that the tragedies were spread out over too many years to be connected. Still, the question lingers. Why did so many who touched the treasures of Tutankhamun meet unusual fates? Even in modern times, the whispers have not faded. When artifacts from the tomb were sent abroad for exhibitions, mishaps seemed to follow. In the 1960s, when the treasures traveled to Paris, a museum official experienced an abrupt and unexplained passing. In the 1970s, the artifacts were displayed in London, and staff reported strange accidents and unsettling feelings while handling them. More recently, in 2020, Egypt faced a series of disasters from transportation accidents to unusual public mishaps coinciding with the relocation of Tutankhamun's treasures to a new museum. Social media erupted with claims that the curse had awakened once more. So was it simply a string of coincidences magnified by fear? Or could there truly be forces from the past reaching into the present? The truth may never be known. What is certain is that Tutankhamun's story still casts a shadow. His golden mask stares at us across time, a silent reminder that some discoveries may come with a price. Whether by chance, by psychology, or by something far more mysterious, the legend of the Pharaoh's curse refuses to die. And perhaps that is the greatest curse of all, not the tragedies themselves, but the way they continue to haunt our imagination, century after century. A deep blue stone, dazzling in its brilliance, so beautiful that kings, queens, and tycoons risked everything to possess it. But beauty, as history has shown us, often comes with a price. And for the owners of the Hope Diamond, that price was ruin, despair, and sometimes death. The legend begins in India, centuries ago. According to one account, the diamond was stolen from the eye of a sacred statue of a Hindu goddess. The thief who dared to take it was later torn apart by wild dogs. Some say the goddess cursed the gem from that moment on, binding it with misfortune so that no one who possessed it would ever know peace. The diamond made its way into the hands of a French merchant named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier. He brought it to Europe in the 17th century, where it immediately attracted the attention of King Louis XIV of France. Tavernier sold the gem to the king, and for a while, it seemed like fortune favored him. But fate would not be denied. Tavernier later fell out of favor, lost his wealth, and, depending on which version of the story you believe, was torn apart by wild dogs, the same fate as the original thief. King Louis XIV himself did not escape unscathed. Though he was the Sun King, the symbol of France's grandeur, his final years were filled with personal tragedy. His beloved son, grandson, and great-grandson all died in quick succession, leaving the throne vulnerable. When the French Revolution erupted decades later, his descendant, King Louis XVI, and Queen Marie Antoinette both met the guillotine. While the Hope Diamond was not directly in their possession at that moment, many whispered that the family's downfall had been sealed the moment Louis XIV brought the cursed gem into the royal treasury. During the Revolution, the diamond vanished, stolen from the royal collection during the looting of the French crown jewels. For years, its whereabouts were unknown. Then, mysteriously, it reappeared in England, cut into a slightly smaller gem to disguise its identity. From there, the trail of misery continued. Wealthy collectors who bought the stone often suffered catastrophic financial losses. Henry Philip Hope, from whom the diamond eventually got its name, acquired it in the 19th century. His family was once one of the richest in Europe, but after his death, his heirs quarreled over the gem. Within a generation, their fortune was gone, and the Hope family line collapsed into obscurity. The diamond's reputation grew darker as it passed into the hands of various owners. One story tells of a Turkish sultan who possessed the stone. Soon after, his entire court was embroiled in scandal, betrayal, and death. Another account describes a Russian prince who obtained the gem only to be murdered by revolutionaries. Each tale reinforced the idea that the Hope Diamond was not merely unlucky, but actively malevolent. By the early 20th century, the diamond found its way to the United States. In 1911, the wealthy socialite Evelyn Walsh McLean purchased it from Cartier, the famous jeweler. At first, she wore it proudly, flaunting its brilliance at parties and on social occasions. She even mocked the idea of a curse, declaring that a diamond so beautiful could not possibly bring harm. But misfortune soon followed. Her young son was killed in a tragic car accident. Her daughter later died of a drug overdose. Her husband, Edward McLean, descended into madness, was declared insane, and died in a mental institution. Evelyn herself became increasingly eccentric, her once vast fortune dwindling into ruin. Even as tragedy mounted, she continued to wear the diamond, almost defiantly, if challenging the curse directly. But when she died in 1947, she was penniless and broken, a shadow of the glamorous woman she had once been. After her death, the diamond passed to the famous jeweler Harry Winston, who donated it to the Smithsonian Institution in 1958. But even that act carried an eerie twist. Winston mailed the priceless gem to the museum through ordinary registered mail, wrapped in brown paper, the postage fee of just $2.44. The postal worker who delivered the package, James Todd, was later involved in a series of accidents. His wife died suddenly. He lost his home to a fire. One of his legs was crushed in a car accident. He too came to believe the curse had touched him. Even though he had never owned the diamond, only carried it briefly. Today, the Hope Diamond sits on display at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., admired by millions of visitors each year. Scientists have studied it, noting its unusual phosphorescent glow, shines a fiery red for several seconds after being exposed to ultraviolet light, a property that adds to its eerie reputation. While experts insist there is no such thing as a curse, many cannot shake the feeling that the diamond radiates something beyond beauty, something dangerous. Skeptics argue that the curse is nothing more than coincidence and embellishment. After all, wealth attracts attention, jealousy, and risk. Rich families rise and fall. Tragedies strike both the fortunate and the poor. The Hope Diamond, they say, is just a stone, albeit one of the most extraordinary stones in the world. And yet, the stories persist. Too many deaths, too many bankruptcies, too many lives destroyed. Even now, visitors sometimes report feeling uneasy when standing before the diamond's glass case, as if the gem is watching them, as if it knows their secrets. Perhaps the curse has gone dormant, satisfied with the ruin it has already wrought. Or perhaps it is simply waiting, biding its time until someone, somewhere, dares to take it from the Smithsonian's display case. If that day ever comes, history suggests the curse will awaken once more, ready to claim its next victim, because some beauty is too sharp to touch. And some treasures were never meant to be possessed by mortal hands. Some curses are tied to objects. Others are bound to ancient kings. But the most chilling maledictions are those that sink their claws into bloodlines, condemning generation after generation to suffering, as though fate itself has turned against them. The tale of the Blackwood family is one such story. It is a curse whispered about in hushed tones, often dismissed as coincidence by skeptics. Yet the pattern of misfortune stretches back centuries, leaving behind a trail of ruined lives, unexplained deaths, and unanswered questions. The Blackwoods were once a proud English family, minor nobility, who first rose to prominence in the late 15th century. Their ancestral seat was a sprawling manor built on the edge of a dense forest in Northumberland. Locals often said the land was tainted. Long before the Blackwoods built their estate, the site had been the scene of a bloody witch trial. In 1459, a woman accused of consorting with the devil was executed there. Her body burned and her ashes scattered on the soil where the manor now stood. According to legend, with her dying breath she spat out a curse, that the family who dared claim the land would drink sorrow from their own blood and choke on the shadows of their name. For years, nothing seemed unusual, but then the misfortunes began. In 1510, the first lord of the manor, Edmund Blackwood, died suddenly after falling from his horse. His son perished weeks later in a hunting accident so bizarre that villagers whispered it had been no accident at all. From that point forward, the family seemed to live under a black cloud. Across the generations, tragedies followed relentlessly. One Blackwood heir drowned in the estate's lake under mysterious circumstances. Another vanished without a trace during a hunting trip, his body never found. Several were struck down by illness at unusually young ages, while others met violent deaths in duels, fires, or inexplicable accidents. The pattern was so consistent that even neighboring families began to avoid marriages with the Blackwoods, fearing the curse would spread. By the 18th century, the Blackwoods were a shell of their former selves. The manor was said to be haunted, strange noises in the halls, windows shattering without cause, servants fleeing after seeing a woman's face in the walls. Local folklore claimed this apparition was the spirit of the executed witch, still haunting the bloodline that inherited her land. But the curse was not confined to England. As the Blackwood descendants scattered across the world, misfortune followed. In the 19th century, one branch emigrated to America, seeking a fresh start in Virginia. Within a decade, their farmhouse burned down in a mysterious blaze that killed 2 children. Another Blackwood descendant, a naval officer, drowned at sea under circumstances his crew described as unnatural. His body was said to have been dragged under by unseen hands in calm water. Skeptics argue these tragedies are simply the accumulation of bad luck across centuries. After all, families with long histories inevitably record deaths, accidents, and misfortunes. But the Blackwood story is not just about isolated tragedies, it is about patterns, accidents that repeat themselves in eerily similar ways. Deaths that seem to echo those of ancestors long gone. One of the most unsettling aspects of the curse is the phenomenon of the Blackwood heir's death. For at least 4 generations, the firstborn son of each household died before reaching the age of 30. Whether by accident, illness, or sudden unexplained collapse, the pattern held with chilling consistency. Locals called it the Shadows Claim. Even into the 20th century, the curse appeared unbroken. In 1928, Charles Blackwood, a promising lawyer in London, was found dead in his study. The cause: heart failure at the age of 29. In 1953, his cousin in Canada, also the eldest of his line, died in a car crash just shy of his 30th birthday. The curse seemed relentless, weaving itself into the very fabric of the family tree. The Blackwood estate itself only added to the mystery. By the mid-20th century, the manor was abandoned. Those brave enough to enter reported a suffocating atmosphere, rooms unnaturally cold, hallways filled with whispers and shadows that moved against the light. Some swore they saw the figure of a woman at the windows, her face twisted in rage. Ghost hunters who explored the site claimed their equipment malfunctioned, batteries drained instantly, and recordings picked up strange voices muttering in archaic English. And still, the tragedies continued. In 1989, a young Blackwood descendant living in Australia fell from a balcony during a party again, just shy of 30. In 2007, another heir died in a freak electrical accident in his own home. Each time, the pattern renewed itself, feeding the legend that the family's blood was poisoned by something far older than they were. Which brings us to the present. Today, the Blackwood name is nearly extinct. Only a handful of descendants remain, scattered quietly across England, Canada, and the United States. Some changed their surnames to escape the shadow. Others refused to speak of their ancestry at all. Yet even among these modern Blackwoods, strange misfortunes persist: illnesses, accidents, sudden financial ruin. Is it superstition? Is it a self-fulfilling prophecy, where the belief in a curse manifests as psychological pressure, leading to mistakes and tragedy? Or is there truly something ancient, something tied to the soil, that refuses to let go of those who carry the name Blackwood? We may never know, but one thing is certain. Unlike objects that can be locked away or tombs that can be sealed, a bloodline cannot escape itself. The Blackwoods have lived and died under the shadow of their curse for over 500 years. And if the legends are true, the shadow is still watching, waiting, and claiming what it believes is owed. Curses, are they real? Or are they simply the ways we explain tragedy when logic feels too thin, too fragile to hold back the unknown? The stories we've uncovered tonight, Tutankhamun's tomb, the deadly path of the Hope Diamond, and the long, broken shadow of the Blackwood family, force us to confront a chilling truth. Sometimes history refuses to stay buried. Skeptics will tell you it's all coincidence, string of unlucky events, the randomness of life dressed up as legend. But then you look closer. You notice the patterns, the eerie repetitions, the wounds that echo across centuries, and you start to wonder, can coincidence really be this precise? Maybe the real power of a curse is not in supernatural punishment, but in its ability to take root in the human mind. Fear, once planted, can shape destiny. A man who believes he is cursed might hesitate, make mistakes, even invite the very doom he dreads. Yet, there are details too sharp, too strange that feel like something more. A mosquito bite matching the wound on a mummy. A diamond leaving destruction in every hand that holds it. Generations of heirs cut down before 30, as though claimed by an invisible hand. Perhaps the terror lies not just in whether curses are real, but in how deeply we let them haunt us. Because once you believe you are marked by fate, reality itself begins to bend in the shadow of that belief. And so the question lingers. Are curses external forces that stalk us from the past? Or are they reflections of our own fears? Darkness made manifest in our lives because we cannot let go of the possibility. Either way, one truth remains. Curses endure because we give them life. They live in our imagination, in the stories we pass down, and in the quiet moments when the world feels just a little too strange, a little too heavy, a little too dark. So tell me, do you believe? Have you or your family ever felt touched by something you couldn't explain? Share your story in the comments below. And if you want to walk further into the shadows of history and the supernatural, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join me for the next descent into the unknown. Because sometimes, the past is not done with us.